Hi, how are you? I hope you've been well. Valentine's Day is coming, so I decided to do a beauty look instead of continuing with my body painting and graphic eyes and stuff. So to start, I use my Pore and Shine Control Primer by NARS. This one's been working a lot better for me than the oil control or whatever it was that I had that just was not stocked anywhere. So I've been just using this one again and again. I do need to restock it soon. I'm gonna go wet my beauty blender. I'm never prepared when I do beauty makeup. It's like I forget how to do makeup. Alright, so for foundation, I've changed over from the NARS Soft Matte Complete Foundation to the Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place Makeup Foundation. I was planning on doing a foundation and complexion routine video, but what happened was the day that I filmed that, I was sunburned, and this is very light, so it's not even gonna match me today. Oh, maybe it will. Because I had the sunburn and then I had the tan and... But anyway, so I've switched over to this one. It's a lot softer on my skin because my skin changed from my skincare, and I would have explained all of that if that video went up, but I'll do one eventually. I take my beauty blender now. I don't use a brush anymore. Beauty blender, product. I do focus most of the product on the larger portions of my face and then I blend it outward. So even if I didn't put it down my neck, I don't think it'd be that much of a difference if the color match was pretty exact. My concealer is still the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. I was going to change it up for a softer, creamier concealer, but I didn't because I had just bought this one, so I may as well use this one. But in combination with the foundation I'm using now, it's not so drying. I typically do a messy application with concealer. I apply it on my cheekbone. I don't wear highlighters yet. I'm still a bit cautious about it because I do get a little shiny by the end of the day. Not as bad as it was, but I still do a little bit. So I focus my concealer on my cheekbone where my highlight would typically be. And the bulk of it highlights that point, but then I blend it out under the eye and on the redness of the cheek or wherever it needs to be, on the inside of the nose, the eyelid, because it does blend very well, especially with the beauty blender. It doesn't snag onto any part of dry skin. It just blends nicely. And it avoids any creasing like directly under the eye or whatever when you apply it a little lower than the eye and blend it upward. And then with any additional redness, I apply on top of that and add the second layer. But it's not a lot. Like, I don't take too much product of it because I feel like by the end... I just picked my nose on camera. I feel like by the end of the night anyway, it would get really creasy and cakey, and I don't... Like, I want to avoid that. So focus it on the cheekbone. It makes a very subtle light, like a very subtle highlight, but I find it effective because I've tried it other ways as well and it's not as effective. I don't do the whole triangle thing because I don't have a big forehead. I don't want to, there's no point. So I just put a little bit above the eyebrows and down the nose. When I do blend it though, the concealer, I blend it mostly where people usually apply the concealer. I just blend it there. Again, I'm trying to avoid extra greasiness, so if you are typically oily or combination oily, this might work for you too. I do the Cupid's bow as well because I have thin lips, so it kind of brings it out a little bit. And with any excess from that, under the nose and down the smile lines. Not too much on the smile lines because smile lines crease. I do have a way to hide that if the smile lines bother you. I think they're cute. And then I use my MERCIER. There is an eyelash stuck at the bottom of this. And I thought it was a spider, and I nearly... Laura Mercier Translucent Loose Setting Powder Ultra Blur. I take a bit of that in the lid and I sort of push that into the brush and shake away the excess because I don't like any fallout. And I concentrate the first round of that under and over my eye with any excess to that on my nose. Then I take it down my nose, or down and around my nose I should say, and up into the places that I did my concealing. I do the concealing parts first because this is the part that I want covered the most. I also go back in later after my setting spray and do it all again. With the parts of my face that aren't so oily, I have extra product on the brush. I don't so much care about fluffing it off because I lightly take it on top of where I need to take it. I don't so much blot it like I did under the eyes like I do here. I just kind of fluff it everywhere because those parts of my face aren't going to get oily. But under here, I do push it in on top of here on my T-zone. I push the product in Everywhere else I buff it. And also under the jaw and down the neck if you've applied the foundation there, just so it doesn't transfer. My bronzer hasn't changed. It's still the NARS Laguna bronzer in matte. I have Hit Pan, which is exciting because I do want to try a bronzer by Charlotte Tilbury, so I'll probably get that next. I'd use a dual fiber brush. So I try to bring it around to give it a sort of lift instead of pushing it down into a sharp shape, because I don't have big lips. If I push my contour down into my lips, I look very aggressive. Little line, and I bring it up into a circle, and then I buff it out to the top of the cheekbone, tapering it out. So like the higher up I get, the lighter my hand is, and it sort of lifts off and brushes past it. I also go back in later with a fluffier brush and I blend everything smoother together. Take some more product. For my, oh no, I applied too much product. It's alright. For the forehead contouring, I only apply to the center and I taper it off to the sides. I have a diamond shaped head, so it's narrow here anyway. I don't need to make it any narrower. It'll look aggressive still. You might like that look. It might suit you. And then under the jaw. So what we were taught, when you're doing under the jaw contour, not everyone does it. But if you're doing it, try and line it exactly where your jaw ends and blend it underneath. So that when you talk and you open your mouth, if you do it exactly on the jaw, when you open your mouth, you'll have a line across here as your face moves. So try and hit just underneath and blend it onto the neck. That will separate the face from the neck, and when you speak, it's not going to show like you've missed your face. And make sure when you do that, you get under the ears as well, and under the chin. Then I take a smaller, fluffier brush. It's not fluffier than the one I just did, it's just smaller. Tap into the same bronzer, and for my nose contour. Nose contour is difficult to teach because no two noses are the same, right? Not two noses, even if they are the same, they're not on the same face. They are on different faces that you want to accent differently. Some people want to make their nose look wider, thinner, bigger, smaller. Nose contour is hard to teach. What I do with my nose, a little bit underneath the tip and straight up the sides, I try to make it narrow, but not too narrow where it doesn't fit on my face. I take it a little underneath the brows as well, just the front part of it. And there's a little bit of a dip here, and I take it across that dip just to bring out that ball, I guess, to make it kind of point upward. I do want to do a video on nose contouring one day, but I don't know how to do it yet, so it'll happen. With any excess product, I take it a little bit under my lip just to create a shadow so it looks like my lip is curling over a little more than it is. And that's all for bronzer. I then take this big fluffy guy and I make sure to make that as seamless as I possibly can. Because we did use the duo fiber brush and there's always a risk of blotchiness. Like here, how I used too much product. I buff it out, blend it out into my hairline so nobody really knows. And it also brings the product further down and blends it nicer down my neck. And it gets rid of any harsh lines that I may have accidentally created underneath my chin. This blush is new. I've never really had a blush. I was using the Ambient Bronzer by Hourglass and it was still a bronzer and I was very comfortable with it. This is the Dolce Vita by NARS. It's a very pink guy, and the last few times I've worn it, I have hated how pink I look, how red I look. I look very shocked to have my face. Probably because I haven't exactly washed my proper blush brush and I've been using this angled contouring brush instead. What I've been doing, since I didn't like the really stark red look, very light hand, very small amount of product. I smile to, ball up my cheek, pat it a couple times, but then I bring it up. So the color is there. No, I didn't put enough product. I probably did, and then I'll hate it later. The product is there, but I bring it up into my cheekbone and it blends in with that bronzer. I think this is also something because I'm getting a little older as well. So it's not so much the front of my face that I want focused, it's the cheekbones to pull it back, pull everything back. So I apply a little bit of the color on my cheek and bring it up and blend it into my bronzer. And then I take that big brush from before and I do the exact same thing. I try to blend it seamlessly together, sometimes blotting it, sometimes swirling it, sometimes in back and forth. Whatever you find suits you, whatever effect you like the best. My eye keeps watering. Quit it. We're doing a video. Okay. My eyebrows are due for fixing. Does anyone else have the issue where your right eyebrow is perfect and your left one is like trying too hard? With eyebrows, I don't have this whole extravagant routine. I use the, what is this? Benefit Gimme Brow Volumizing gel. This one's kind of finished, but I run that through the hairs just to keep them in place. And it fills in any extra things that need to be filled in just to keep it all uniform. For shadows, I'm going to use a mix between the Too Faced Born This Way Natural Nudes and the Gemini palette, because this doesn't have a black and this one does. I might use a black. I probably will. I'm going to do a classic eye because it suits me the most, and also because I think it looks best with a bolder lip. I'm going to use the color Nude, this one here, with a fluffy brush that I have from Sigma, just to lightly tap into it and apply that onto the literal ball of my eyelid. This is technically a transition between the light and the dark that I'm going to do. I don't always do this. Sometimes I just use the light and the dark. It really pops it. But I feel like, I don't know, this adds a little bit of depth to the look as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that a little higher than the eyelid because, again, if you're new here, I have a semi-hooded eye, which means that when I open my eye, you can't see any of the work that I do. So we take it a little above. Does it make the eye look more intense? Yes, but otherwise it looks like you didn't do anything and it just sucks. I'm going to take a brush I have by Real Techniques. It's sort of, I don't know if you can tell, it's like long and then short. It's like a rectangle-ish. It's fluffy, but it's dense. And I'm going to use the color Truffle, this one here. Shake off the excess. I do this a lot with this palette especially. If you have this palette, you might notice it applies product very boldly and then you spend a very long time trying to blend it out. It's not like a soft application of color that you keep layering. You have to be very gentle with it. And I'm going to dab that on and sort of create a shape, which is where my eyeliner is going to go out to. And I have to bring that up a little bit. I'll blend it all probably later, but just so I know where I'm going. And a little bit underneath with the excess. So you tap most of it on top of the V, a little bit out, and then the excess is under here, just to connect it as your guideline for what you're going to do. So after I've used that and I've created my initial shape, I grab a brush and a tissue and I wipe off the extra product that's on there. Because at this point, I don't want to keep adding product. I want to blend out what I have softly, or else it looks very harsh and very, like, you won't be able to get neat lines. So for this, I am concentrating it in the outer V of my eye and onto the outer of the eyelid as well. And from underneath the eye, that's when I pull it out and taper it out. And then I blend it in circular motions from that point where I blended it to, up and around, trying not to hit the eyebrow or the brow bone too much, but softly blending it over it, if that makes sense. So not creating a harsh line on that brow bone, but giving yourself room to blend on top of the brow bone, because that's just how the eye is. And any excess will be concentrated in that outer portion. And my goal for this is to keep it very soft on the eyes. I will go in with a liner and lashes, but again, the focus of this look is to accent the eyes nicely, but have a bolder lip. Then I'm going to take another fluffy brush I have by Real Techniques. It's more rounded off than the one we just used. And I take the color Swan. Usually I take this with a pencil brush and I do the inner corner, but because this is a classic eye, I don't mind how much of the light color I add into it because it will blend softly into that dark color. And I put that on the inner corner of my eye and I blot it to get as much product as I can, and then I'll blend it out later. Again, sometimes I won't use that middle color and I'll just go from light to dark and it's a bit more dramatic, but I didn't want to do that for this look. And I take it a little underneath as well, not really caring how far under it goes. And with a light hand, just on that brow bone. I'm going to take an angled brush and the color Bonnie from the Gemini palette. I start off by adding the color to the bottom. This is where I put my eyeliner. So my eyeliner comes from the bottom because of my eye shape. I do bring it up on the top as well because I do like to blend it into that crease, but my guideline is from the bottom lash line outward. I take a pencil brush and I try to buff this out. Not so much blend it into the brown, but buff it out so it's not so harsh and it creates a little more depth. That is really rough. I actually might take the brush that I used before for the dark brown and do it there. Okay, so this is the KVD tattoo liner in Trooper. So if you're new here and you don't know, I take my liner from underneath my lower lash and I don't bring it too high because I have that hood. If I bring it too high, it'll hide it and it'll make it look like that Nike tick. It's not exactly a winged liner, it's a tick. It looks like a tail and it doesn't complement the eye. It doesn't, in my opinion, make my eye look good. So I bring it outward and I attach, if you can see where that fold is, bring it up to that crease and then back down to the eye. So I take it from the inside underneath the lashes just a little bit and then I try to lightly taper it from that inside to the outer bolder part of the line. Now I messed up because it's dry, hang on. From the middle of the eye is where it gets thicker because if you do it closer to the inner part of the eye, I feel like it makes your eye look smaller. It makes my eye look smaller. So I try to keep it very light on the inside, but keeping the line there, because when you apply lashes, you want the line there to kind of blend the lashes into the rest of your makeup look instead of having it look weird. And then because of the semi-hood, I bring from the center of my eye, I make it thicker, and I keep the line as straight as I can to that point. Okay, so with the Makeup Forever Aqua Resist color pencil, I line everything on the inside. And then I take my angled brush from before and Bonnie from the Gemini palette and I add a little bit of black underneath it, and with that very uncomfortably scratchy brush, buff that out maybe halfway, blending it with the brown that we've put underneath, but also connecting that lower part of the eyeliner down to the rest of the eye look. You don't have to do this if you don't have the same eye shape as I do. I do it because that's just how I connect it, how everything looks better, or else I feel like the look is incomplete and off balance. But it's totally optional. Problem is, because I had this problem last night when I went out, because my eyes have been watering, I can't apply lashes properly. It doesn't stick. And then when it does stick, it unsticks. So I think for today, I'm going to leave it as it is. Which sucks because I love lashes. They're so much fun. But it's going to irritate my eyes again, and I just... So unfortunately today, I'm going to have to boycott the lashes. But normally when I have to do that, I add 2 layers of the mascara instead of 1, like 2 coats of it. Let's take Plum lip liner pencil by MAC. I'm going to try and line the entire lip. I've been doing this a little bit. I don't know if it suits me yet. I haven't decided yet. I'll try it here. Line the entire lip. I'll list everything below when I actually get a closer look at it because the writing is so small. So in the center. Oh, should I just use this color? I'm just trying to mix them on my hand here to see if it even looks good with the red. I'm going to use the red just a little bit, and then I'll try and blend it out all together and see if that makes it cool. So in the corner of the lips, apply Viva Glam, and I'm going to tap lightly on top of the Fenty Beauty one, just to give it that bit of warmth. I'm going to go back in later and fix it with the lip liner, so don't judge me yet on the unevenness. And I'm going to take the Fenty Beauty lip again, just to blend in that top lip liner because it was a bit harsh. Back in with the red. At this point, I take my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Setting Spray. When this does dry, I take my setting powder again with my setting powder brush. I normally focus this on my cheekbones, my nose, my T-zone essentially. because obviously it's going to be the first to get oily or shiny. But here's the thing. When I do this step, my face doesn't get oily. It gets shiny, but it gets shiny like healthy shiny, like glowy shiny. So I can be out for 14 hours. Normally I don't go out for 14 hours, but let's just say I'm working. My complexion is the same. And I can go out for 12 to 14 hours and I'll come home and look healthy and glowy. And I don't mind that. But if it is a Valentine's Day event or like an event in general where I'm going out, I might go dancing, whatever, I do with any excess product, do the rest of the face as well. When I finalize everything and I'm about to head out, I'll take a small pencil brush and then with the matte one, oh yeah, I forgot this entire step. With Swan, I take it down my nose and then create like a tip dot. You can't really tell because it's a light eyeshadow, it's not a highlighter, so you can't really tell. Simple eyes, bolder lip, that's typically what I go for Valentine's Day. Is that weird? I feel like if people don't go for red, they go for nude a lot. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking before this gets weird. This is the final look. If you enjoyed this look, please leave this video a like, and if you'd like to see more, consider subscribing. I hope you have a lovely Valentine's Day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.